Welcome to The Explainer. Listen up, because if you're currently grinding through your prep for the Cambridge Accounting AS and A-Level 9706 exams, you are in exactly the right place. I'm going to reveal something absolutely crucial right out of the gate. Mastering the expenses to revenue ratio? It's not just a good idea, it is absolutely essential for your success. Why? Well, as a curriculum architect, I look at the syllabus data all the time, and this specific topic appears in literally every single examination series. Every single one. It's unavoidable. It's this high-stakes battleground where examiners just ruthlessly separate the top-tier A-star candidates from everybody else. But today we're doing something different. We're going to look at this strictly through the examiner's lens. We're not just going to crunch the math, right? We are going to dissect the cognitive strategies, the specific command words, and the precise analytical frameworks that actually secure those full, top-band marks. To get us to that top tier, we've got a very strict, syllabus-aligned roadmap today. First, we'll hit the core principles. Second, the method mark strategy. Third, critical analysis. And fourth, top examiner warnings. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the core principles. This is your theoretical architecture. So you cannot build a high-scoring answer on a weak foundation. Which brings us to a massive open loop that honestly stumps candidates year after year. Why is applying concepts to unfamiliar contexts so incredibly hard? The Cambridge syllabus explicitly states that top-performing students exhibit this deeply connected conceptual understanding that they can transfer to any scenario. Yet, so many brilliant students just absolutely freeze when the exam scenario isn't a carbon copy of their textbook. Let me paint a picture for you. I see two types of scholars all the time. Let's call them Alex and Sam. Now, Alex is highly technical, right? A total whiz at the formulas and the facts. But throw an open-ended evaluation at Alex, and they panic. Sam, on the other hand, is this super creative thinker, great at building arguments, but totally struggles with structural precision and timing. Both of them freeze up because they memorize rather than conceptualize. They learn the formula, but they don't actually understand the living, breathing business reality that the formula represents. To ace this exam, you have to transition from being a memorizer to a strategic thinker. You have to conquer all the assessment objectives, your baseline knowledge, your deep analysis, and your higher-order evaluation. And look, the absolute best, most effective way to become that strategic thinker is to master cross-topic connections. I mean, the principal examiner reports make a very explicit point about this every year. They clearly highlight that candidates who reference cross-topic connections, the ones who actively integrate the expenses to revenue ratio with completely different areas of the syllabus, they achieve significantly higher marks. It's a game changer. This ratio does not exist in a vacuum. It is deeply connected to systematic analysis across the entire accounting framework. So when you're in the exam and you're asked to evaluate this ratio, you must, absolutely must, be thinking about how it impacts overall profitability, operational efficiency, and liquidity. You have to weave those concepts together.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we mean by conceptualizing rather than just memorizing. By visually encoding the proportion of expenses literally taking a giant bite out of your total revenue, you're creating a really powerful memory hack. So when you finally sit down in that stressful exam hall, don't just try to recall a boring string of textbook text. Visualize this relationship. Ask yourself, if the expenses slice suddenly grows, what happens to the remaining revenue? What specific operational decisions on the ground caused that slice to grow in the first place? Visualizing the data transforms these abstract floating numbers into a tangible business scenario. And honestly, that makes applying it to a completely unfamiliar, weird context vastly easier.
All right, moving right along. Section 2, the method mark strategy. This is the technical methodology you need to survive. This is the execution phase, guys, and I want you to get really enthusiastic about this, because this is where Cambridge heavily rewards your technical methodology. Examiners aren't just scanning your paper for some magical final number. They are actively hunting for ways to award you points for your process through method marks. To guarantee you capture every single possible method mark, you have to follow this standardized sequence. Step 1. Deconstruct the question. What is the command word? This is huge. Are they asking you to analyze or evaluate? Analyze means breaking down the data, but evaluate means making a justified judgment. Are they asking you to explain, or to what extent? Step 2. Extract relevant data from the stimulus materials. Step 3. Select your analytical framework. Step 4. Execute your analysis with crystal clear working and verify your results. And finally, Step 5. Present your findings. If you skip steps, or if you're one of those students who does all the complex working in your head, you are literally leaving marks on the table. You have to show the examiner every single step of your logic. Let's look a little closer at Step 2, extracting data. I want to treat this like a quick, interactive workshop. Imagine you're staring at a massive, complex text excerpt in an exam. Data interpretation skills here are absolutely critical. Exam stimulus materials are inherently noisy. They're packed with distractors. You might see a random, miscellaneous bank loan figure that is completely, 100% irrelevant to the expenses to revenue ratio you're supposed to be calculating. Your job is to extract the right figures from these complex texts and tables, accurately interpret the relationships between them, and sort them into relevant analytical categories. You literally have to filter out the noise to draw evidence-based conclusions. Think about our student Alex. Alex might just grab all the numbers and smash them together. But if you misclassify a single expense here, your entire downstream analysis is going to be completely flawed.
And then, of course, comes the presentation. Listen, practical application requires professional skills. That means proper headings, correct terminology, appropriate formats, and clear, undeniable annotation. You know what actually happens? I see candidates who have executed the math perfectly, flawlessly, but their presentation is a total chaotic mess. And guess what? They lose marks. Cambridge expects you to communicate exactly like an accounting professional. Clear formatting isn't just about making your paper look pretty, it's about making your logical progression completely undeniable to the examiner who is grading your paper at 11 p.m. You have to guide them by the hand.
Okay, Section 3, Critical Analysis and Higher Order Evaluation. Let's really unlock those top-tier bands.
This is where we shift into those higher-order cognitive domains. Let's look at a direct comparison, because this literally defines success versus mediocrity in these exams. A basic descriptive approach, it just merely states what the ratio is. Or worse, it just mindlessly repeats the data provided in the text. It completely stays on the surface. Now, top-scoring candidates, they demonstrate true evaluative thinking. They question the assumptions provided in the stimulus. They consider alternative interpretations. They look at the actual limitations of the evidence they've been given. And most importantly, they justify their decisions with concrete, undeniable evidence. I remember watching scholars debate this. The technical one drafts a perfectly factual, descriptive paragraph, but the creative one jumps in and says, wait, we haven't justified why this matters to the business? Moving from descriptive to evaluative is literally the single biggest leap you can make in your exam technique.
To reliably produce those top-tier evaluative answers every single time, you need to internalize this three-part problem-solving sequence. This is exactly how you get unstuck when you hit a roadblock in an exam. First, deconstruct the given information into logical steps. Break it down. Second, solve the problem systematically, checking for reasonableness along the way. Stop and ask yourself, does this ratio actually make sense for this specific industry? Finally, evaluate. This means making heavily justified recommendations based on your findings. You aren't just a human calculator, right? You are stepping into the role of a high-level business advisor, interpreting what this expenses to revenue ratio actually means for the future survival of the entity.
All right, I'm going to pause everything right here. Before we jump into the absolute hardest section of this entire masterclass, the exact traps that examiners set for you, I need you to do something. If you are serious about unlocking top marks, and you want weekly, high-level Cambridge breakthroughs just like this, hit the subscribe button for Ace the Exam's IGCSE O and A levels at @acetheexam_IGCSE. Make sure you turn on that notification bell right now so you never miss a strategy session. We drop exam hacks that literally save grades. All right, let's get back to the explainer and look at exactly where students are bleeding marks.
Section 4. The Examiner Warnings. Let's talk about the evaluation trap. So, we are going to look directly at the principal examiner reports here to uncover the most dangerous pitfalls. Let's practice spotting the flaw. The report says candidates consistently confuse key terminology. Always define terms before using them. Guys, this is an absolute red alert examiner warning. When you are writing out a long, extended response, do not ever assume that the examiner knows that you know what a term means, right? If you're discussing specific operational expenses versus capital expenditures, you must define them briefly before you analyze them. Precision in your language proves the absolute depth of your knowledge.
Now, what's really interesting about this right here is how it visually corrects the #1 major conceptual error examiners see year after year. Candidates constantly confuse the cause of a ratio change with its effect. Let's say the expenses to revenue ratio increases. Students will often just describe the mathematical effect. They'll write, well, expenses went up relative to revenue, and they think they've perfectly answered the question. But no, that is just the mathematical effect. The cause is the underlying real-world business event, maybe a sudden spike in raw material costs or an aggressive marketing campaign that just hasn't yielded any actual sales yet, or a massive hike in factory rent. You absolutely must separate the operational cause from the numerical effect if you want to score highly.
So, let's explicitly list and mentally bookmark the top 3 fatal errors pulled straight from the principal examiner reports so you can avoid them when exam day arrives. Number 1, as we just hammered home, confusing cause and effect. Do not fall for it. Number 2, forgetting your format and presentation. A brilliant, genius-level analysis that's presented in a chaotic, unreadable format will just hemorrhage method marks. And number 3, which honestly is perhaps the most tragic mistake I see, providing generic answers that are not specific to the context given.
I literally cannot emphasize this point enough. Context is everything. A generic answer is a failed answer, period. If the stimulus material gives you a scenario about a manufacturing firm facing severe supply chain issues, your evaluation of the expenses-to-revenue ratio absolutely must reference manufacturing costs and those specific supply chain constraints. If you just spit out a memorized textbook answer about general retail expenses, you're going to score poorly. I don't care how beautifully written it is. Every single response you write must be securely, undeniably anchored to the unique context of the stimulus material you've been given.
Okay, let's take a breath and synthesize this entire masterclass. Crushing your Cambridge exams doesn't happen by accident. It requires a totally consistent, disciplined strategy. If we boil this all down, you need to rely on 3 core memorable pillars. First, the 3-step question scan. Always deconstruct those command words before you write a single thing. Second, the paragraph balance formula, where you flawlessly transition your answers from merely descriptive to deeply evaluative by questioning assumptions and proving your case with context. And third, the last 5 minutes review checklist, where you frantically check your format, your headings, and make sure you clearly defined your terminology. You have to build on the theoretical architecture, ruthlessly apply the method mark strategy, and completely avoid those evaluation traps.
So, the final, most crucial question is this. Have you truly mastered the method mark strategy for your specific target grade? Because let's be real, knowing the theory is only half the battle. Executing this precise process under brutal exam conditions is what actually gets you the A-star. The blueprint is fully in your hands now. How are you going to use it? Do not forget to hit the subscribe button for Ace the Exam's IGCSE O and A levels at @acetheexam_IGCSE. Turn on the notification bell for more high-level exam hacks, go practice those past papers, and right now, I want you to leave a comment below with your target grade to lock in your commitment. Go crush it.